All right, Elsie, back to you, please.
Um, Kind of a general question about the inspiration of the characters and the setting. And I've always found it great as a Latinx writer in LA, the characters, and also the fact that you capture this Southwestern Latinx culture in the show. What inspired you to choose that particular sector of the Latino community in the U.S. To tell this story?
So I'm from San Antonio, Texas, and I feel like it's sort of underrepresented in terms of storytelling. It's such a rich and interesting place, and I always wanted to see more of it. So I often set stories there if I can. And it's amazing to me that the city is so influenced by Mexican culture. And it's just, I grew up, I feel like we ate Mexican food every single meal. So when I went to school on the East Coast and I learned about sushi and falafel, I was shocked. There were other kinds of food. So, and of course, like the music and the art and like the richness of family life and religious life. So I grew up in all of that. And we lived for 2 years in Mexico as well. My dad taught Spanish. So it felt like such an important cultural part of my experience, even though I'm not Mexican American or Latinx. But I really wanted to represent the city and the people in the city through the storytelling and through the characters. And then, of course, meeting Rosa Salazar and Angelique Cabral and Constance Marie, like they're so talented and incredibly wonderful in terms of being human beings. So to get to work with them has been amazing.
You know, it's really interesting thinking back too, because of course, you know, every detail of the show was a decision we made at some point, or a conclusion we came to. And I remember very early on, we were just like very loosely thinking about the show and talking about where it was going to be set. Like we didn't know at first. We're like, oh, it's some city in America, and I'm from the Bay Area. And I remember thinking like, oh, maybe it's in Berkeley. And we were talking about it being in Berkeley for a little bit. And then the more we talked about it, Kate was like, well, I'm from San Antonio. Maybe it's San Antonio. And we started exploring that for a little bit. And that ended up bringing so much to what the show was. And then be like, oh yeah, well, you know, San Antonio is mostly Latinx. So that's who these characters would probably be. Like, oh, okay. And just imagining like, oh, what if it was about white people in Berkeley? There'd be a completely different show. You know, like there's some other universe out there where Kate and I made that show, and we wouldn't have been able to get to so many of these other like really interesting conversations that we got to. And I'm so glad that we did.
Definitely.
Back to Janet.